Okay, so I'm going to show you how I'm learning how to make tech house music in what I would consider to be the fastest and most efficient way. And the cool thing with this is that you don't have to spend any money on courses and you don't have to spend hours watching YouTube tutorials. It's very action oriented and therefore it just has allowed me to learn a lot in a short amount of time. So let's dive into it and I'll show you what the whole process is. All right, so in my mind, the absolute best and most effective way to learn tech house, or really any other genre for that matter, is to learn from people who are already dominating the industry. So you can go to YouTube and watch a start to finish tutorial of someone making tech house or any other genre, and you can learn from that, and it can be helpful. But for me, I'd rather learn from someone that's already killing it in the industry, and they have a song that I'm already loving at the moment. And you can actually do that. And so I'm going to break this down into 3 steps that you can use to follow along. And so the first step is to go to this website. It's FLP Studio. And what this is, it's a collection of project files that you can download, entire project files. So this company, it's a team of producers and they just recreate songs. That's their thing. And they're really, really high quality. I mean, super amazing. So they have them for FL Studio, they have them for Ableton, and they have them for Logic Pro. So if you have any of those 3 DAWs, you're in good shape. Now for me, I use Studio One, so I was kind of screwed over. So not only did I have to download it for a DAW I'm not familiar with, I had to learn that DAW as well. So I decided to use FL Studio because it's the cheapest one to get started with, and they have a 21-day trial. So that's literally all I did, is I am still on this 21-day trial, and I've been learning my first song using that. So anyway, once you figure out what DAW you want to use, you just find a song that you want to use. So for me, I wanted to learn Riz by Abo because this song is insane. It's so good. I absolutely love everything that Abo does. And so you can see, $32.90. I get for maybe some people that might be a bit of money to spend, but I'm telling you, it's entirely worth it. And so the other cool thing about this is that other than the DAW that you need, so FL Studio, you only really need 2 other external plugins. You only need Serum, which yes, can be expensive. I acknowledge that. But then the other thing is just Kickstart too. That's super cheap. It's like $20. And so that's what I really like about this company is all the remakes that they do, you only need 2 external plugins. Everything else is internal to the DAW. And so once you buy it, you get the project, and here it is. Like, holy shit, it's a full functioning project. Like, take a listen to this.
2 days now I hit the switch, let's go.
I mean, it sounds like super identical to the original version. I was shocked when I first heard this. And so this brings us to step number 2. All right, it's just to study this. See, like, how does this song work? What samples do they use? Like, this song uses a tremendous amount of percussive elements from hi-hats, triangles, rides, shaker loops, a ton of like percussion and congas and things like that. And you can see like how it's all laid out. You can see the structure of it. Now for me, this initial learning project was a pain in the ass because for me, I find FL Studio to be the least intuitive DAW I've ever used. It does not make any sense to me. And so honestly, like the hardest part for me was just figuring out how the fuck to work this DAW. But once I figured that out, then it became kind of nice to figure out, okay, now how is the song laid out? And so you can take a look. You can even take a look at the Serum sounds and take a look at those. See how those sound and just kind of go through and just study it. See what samples are used. And not only that, see what kind of automations they use. Like here, they're automating the mix of the reverb on this particular percussion. That's interesting. That's not really something I've done before. And so I start to just get a sense of, one, what kind of song or what kind of sounds do people use in tech house music? What kind of groove do they use? How do they formulate the rhythm? And just how do they arrange the songs? Like there's different, there's silences here.
Can't feel my face, I'm in this bitch. Been up 2 days now I hit the switch, let's go.
And so there's just various parts of the song where you can get a sense of like how things change throughout. And there's certain areas where there's just silence, where you can sort of see how those can be transition pieces like this. And so that's basically step 2. Just take a look at the project in full and just study it. Get a sense of what it's all about and how it's arranged, because that's ultimately what we want to know. Is we don't want to know how to make an 8-bar loop. We want to know how is this actually arranged from start to finish, and what sorts of elements are added to it to create transitions, and what's added to make things unique and interesting as the song goes on. And so that is super interesting to learn. But I think a lot of people stop there. And the third step is arguably the most critical, because it's one thing to look at this and study that, but that alone is a very passive thing to do. And what I want to do is take an active approach to learning. And so that's where step number 3 comes in. And that is to go into my DAW and recreate it entirely from scratch. And so that's what I did here, is I took all of the sounds. So when you download or when you buy the remake, you get this folder and you basically get all of the Serum presets, and then you also get the project files, which has all of the samples that are used in this song. And so I import all of the samples into my project, and then each of those samples I put in a sampler like this. This is just Studio One stock sampler. And then once I have everything prepared, I get to work and I recreate from scratch. And I'm telling you, this is by far the best way to learn, because you may think that you have an understanding looking at this project file and seeing what's going on. And you may think, okay, I've learned from this, I can now do my own thing. No, no, no. It is a whole different beast to go into your DAW and then do it from scratch. Because what I have found is that there's certain like percussive rhythms, like these, for instance, like this. Like just certain things like that I wouldn't know to make on my own. And so this is why like recreating it is so important. And it just allows me to be able to get practice with those different transitions. Like during this intro, there is like a low cut filter that is going on. And so I get a sense of what that is, but there's also on the drums a high cut filter. And so that's very interesting. And so yes, I could see that in the other project file, but it's one thing to actually work with it, because some of these are techniques that I haven't really used before, and I'm not going to learn those techniques unless I actually implement them. And that's where I think remaking things just absolutely changes the game when it comes to learning. And so I put in all the MIDI notes on my own. Yes, I use the presets. I don't actually design the patch from scratch. That I think is a waste of time, because I don't really care about sound design. So I just import the preset, but I do put in the MIDI notes because I do want to see like how the rhythm is constructed and how the notes are constructed. And then from there, like I just go and you can hear like it sounds great. It sounds like the other version.
Can't feel my face, I'm in this bitch. Been up 2 days, now I hit the switch, let's go.
Like, listen to how amazing that sounds. Like, I can't get over how good of a remake these project files are. It's stupid amazing. It sounds eerily like the original. And so anyway, the other thing that this allows me to do that I didn't realize was so difficult is it teaches me how to mix as well. Because again, when I'm listening to this here on FL Studio, this is professionally mixed. And so the issue is that I'm listening to this perfect mix, but when I import everything into Studio One, nothing is mixed. So I have to mix it all on my own. And so like I tried doing a rough mix on my own, and then when I compared it to FL Studio, I realized, oh my God, like I am so far off. And so this is the other really, really crucial benefit of recreating the song in your own DAW, or if you happen to use FL Studio, just opening a new project file and recreating it from scratch. but it allows me to figure out how to actually mix the track. Because I found that when I was doing my track, my bass level before was like way down here or something. And then when I listened to the FL Studio, I realized it was a lot louder. So I had to bump it up here to get it to where it needed to be. And so I wouldn't know that unless I actually tried to mix this song and had this as a reference. So this allows me to be able to train my ears to figure out, okay, what is a good mix for this song, and now I can actually get practice with doing that. And so I go through and I try to recreate the whole song. Now I'm still working on it, and I've gotten like maybe halfway there, but I'm telling you, like, this is absolutely, in my mind, the best way to learn how to make tech house, or really any other genre. So, I mean, you have to think about this. I mean, I'm paying $32 for essentially a self-guided course. All right, now there's no instructor. I am my own instructor, essentially. But think about courses, you pay 10 times this, and you're learning songs that aren't hits. You're just learning songs from people who, yes, they know how to make songs in their chosen DAW, but they probably don't have a song that's on the Beatport top 50 or top 10 or whatever. All right, Riz was on the Beatport top 10, if I'm not mistaken. And so being able to learn from that is absolutely priceless. And the fact that I can do that for $32 is just stupid to me. I really got to give kudos. I'm not sponsored by this company at all, but I really do got to give kudos to these guys at FLP Studio, because the fidelity at which they're able to recreate hit songs blows my mind. And so, yeah, I would really, if you haven't tried this, I would really explore this method of finding a song that you love, seeing if they have it on FLP Studio or any of these other sister companies, and then downloading it, and then learn in the DAW that you downloaded it on. But then ultimately, the most important thing, recreating it in your own DAW. And I think, well, I know for me, I've learned a tremendous amount already. And the cool thing is that once I do this, once I recreate the song in its entirety, I can then make my own song, right? And I can take things that I've learned from this and then try to make my own thing. And I think that's ultimately where I can become a much stronger producer, is I can take elements of this song, or I might want to learn another song or remake another song from FLP Studio. And I can start to like pluck elements that I like from each and every producer, and then I ultimately can start to make my own sound from that. And that's where I think the really interesting power comes from, is being able to have just a vast array of tracks to be able to learn from. So hopefully you found this to be helpful. If you haven't given this a shot, I highly encourage it. Again, like, for the price of getting FL Studio, if you don't already have it, and getting one of these project files, it's cheaper than a course, and you would learn infinitely more than a course. Now, there is the prerequisite that you need to know how to use the DAW. And so again, for me, learning FL Studio was a bit of a bitch, and I still don't know really how to use it much at all, but I can at least stumble through it and learn what I need to be able to learn. But with that said, I'll stop yapping here. I hope you found this to be helpful. And if you did, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.